All right. So we will start standing. I'm trying to show some. There we go. Okay. With a little check-in, just to see how the body is speaking, how we are listening, how we're breathing, what is hiding from our awareness. And then we'll start with a little shake. And for those of us who've been here all year, if there's one thing to take away, it's to jiggle and shake and maybe dance in the morning. So just a short one, because we're going to give a little extra attention to our upper body too. Maybe this one gets the lower body going for us. Any direction of shaking side to side, up and down, changing your orientation, freeing one limb at a time. And I love what you said, Jen, about the feeling of connection. And then also Paige is like, we're having something work harder than if it was distributed. I really feel that the more we can think of our effort dealing with our force support, so how I'm working with gravity and my own body mass and weight, and what we push or do, right? The distribution of that we can think of as a flow on the inside. So a lot of times we think of fluid movement from the outside or a state of flow. But think of when you're jiggling for the last few moments, that you're kind of freeing anything in the way of energetic, communicative, somatic sensation and activation of the flow on the inside. Last couple breaths, getting a little bit everywhere. Okay. And then let's hone in on the shoulder girdle for a moment. And we're going to give a little bit of scrubbing. So anywhere is wonderful, but there's a few points that I want to point out. Just the feedback lets our nervous system say, hey, we're here. So just having a little bit of it's not quite a massage. I wish it would be. A little bit of a scrub on the upper trap here can help it calm down slightly. So that's one place. Sometimes you can make it a pat on the back. Similar effect. And then right above the collarbone on the outer edge, there's almost like a little pond. And get a little strong in there and scrub in there. And it's less a mechanical change for the muscles. It's maybe a little bit of that, but more of a message to our nervous system and our lymph. And our lymph is the garbage pickup. And a lot of times, if we get stagnation in that level of flow, we have a lower pain threshold. You can come a little bit more towards the center, be a little lighter as you get there. And then if we lift our arm and come right in the armpit, similar kind of thing. And you get to decide how strong. You can go through the whole armpit, but really in this kind of front section, this is where the brachial plexus lies. If you're interested in the nervous system, may I highly recommend, I'll put the link in the recap email, checking out Gil Headley's Nerve Tour. Let's just give it a little squeeze down the arm. It is going to be online the first week of January. He's been going to 111 cities all year long. Check it out. It's a little different. Okay, other side. So above the collarbone a little bit. I have found this incredibly helpful. I have a lot of stuff in this neck of the woods. And I learned this from someone who's a pain scientist who works specifically with lymph. And it's really, really helpful for headaches and neck tension. We'll go under the armpit. Notice your breath while you're at it. And then release. Check it out. And we could think of this whole area almost also as the sheaths of fascia connecting up around our head and our jaw. So, one other thing is to take your fingertips, the pads of your fingers, and try to move the skin around your head. Let your jaw go. Tom Myers, who created Anatomy Trains, would say if you want to cinch up your whole body, clench your jaw, vice versa, too, right? And move your fingers around and just think of like that first layer under the skin moving around. It doesn't move a lot, but you might notice places where it moves more or less. Last couple breaths, get the whole of the head. And just a little brush down your neck. Why not? We're here. All right. So let's backstroke with one arm just to get a read of what it feels like. Where does it feel open? Where does it feel a little tight? What else might we feel? It's just our test. And then bend your knee, support with your other arm. And with the backstroke arm, we're going to give some very targeted shaking. So first with the hand jiggling, no muscle effort, and let that flow up through your wrist and your forearm and feel the muscles around your forearm jiggling. Make sure you're really comfortable otherwise. Feel that into your elbow, into the upper arm, biceps, and the tricep. If it starts to get muscly, work with gravity, change the direction, the vectors. And then move that jiggle up into your shoulder. You could feel that in the joint. You could feel it in the chest. You could feel it in your shoulder blade. Can you jiggle into any place that feels either like it holds more tension than necessary, sticky, hidden, quiet? We're working not only on freeing micro adhesions in the actual tissue, but also waking up proprioception in our nerves. Do your nerves regrow like in a surgery and stuff? They cut right through all those little nerves. And then when you're put back together and you move, movement organizes them and they regrow. So we are just saying, hello, hello, wake up, get unhooked from patterns. We're going to stay here for 10 more moments. Then one who jiggles the most wins. We're going to feel the difference of what this does to our bodies. It can be, for some of us, quite dramatic. Last breath. Whew. Just notice. And then test out your backstroke with the same amount of, effort and quality that you did before. Mine feels more free. There's still more freedom to find. Let's test out the other side. Oh, wow, the difference is quite massive. And then once you get the read, we'll try this other arm. Support it. Shaking from down below so we really feel the releasing quality. And up through the wrist and the forearm. Noticing the breath, and up through the elbow and the upper arm. It's a different river over here. See what you feel in the river. Up through the shoulder, chest, upper back. Dominant side might be incredibly different. This is my dominant side, so it's like I can very much tell it's harder to let go upstream here. So I'm going to try to get more random, surprise myself a little bit. Oh yeah, let it, the whole rest of the body can help a little bit. Get up into the upper back. Again, aiming for the sticky or the tense or the harder to feel places. 10 more moments. And last breath. And then come on up, take a check, and test it out. Oh, hallelujah. I hope you feel a little bit different too. Let me get right back to the shoulders, but let's wake up our spine a little bit. And we like to divide space into a grid. So I just want to say that the way we're talking about this is still monoplanar, but when we're in three-dimensional space, you can kind of play. But let's stand nice and tall and feel a little bit of an arch. Bend your knees. It's like a standing cat-cow. And then press into your feet and look down over the canyon and around yourself. So just a little bit of this extension and flexion, and we're going to let the rest of the body play. So it could be this simple, or let's use our arms and either hands free or interlace, push away so you get a little more space in the back. And as you arch, pull and squeeze your upper back. And as you round, push and pull. One more like that. Come on back. Let's rotate, starting with your eyes. And we can feel the rotation, and it could go all the way through to our feet. Do that one time each side. But we don't feel as much in our spine, which is actually more about follow through and has wonderful benefits. But let's keep a little bit of stability down below so that as we turn, we feel the sense of wringing out. And that level of stability down below is up to you. I let my legs move a little bit. I'm not locking them down, but I'm feeling almost a counter rotation in the lower body. And then let's add the arms a little bit. A push and a pull. A push and a pull. And you might find, if you're imagining that you're going through something thick with that push and pull, and really engaging, that you get more rotation without having to work the lower body as much, or you get more of the focus of the rotation into your thoracic and the upper body. One more each side. Relax. One more. Side bending. And this one, please feel free to follow it outside of just one plane. Imagine that you're going beyond the top of your head, and we're going to tip and allow our weight to shift. So kind of like more on one foot than the other. With a sense of lengthening up and over rather than just falling. And we're going to start to think about where our neck and head is. We could think about all the things all the time. Really imagine that your head continues where your spine would go. So it's not falling off and doing its own thing. Let's try this with our hands behind our head, clasping and getting a nice round part of your head. And I like to have my elbows a little bit forward rather than all the way out to the side. And then as we tip, lift your elbow, press your head back just a little. And up and over. Notice if it feels good or maybe unfamiliar or totally familiar to slightly press your head back. One more each side. Then we're going to start canoeing with our elbows. Let the rest of your body adjust, adapt, support. So my weight's shifting, my knees are a little bent, but I'm not thinking about it. And as one elbow goes down into the water, one arm goes up. And they start to make a figure eight. See if your eyes can trace the figure eight. We started that twisting with our eyes and then we went to our arms. Let's see if we can now let our eyes do the canoeing. And especially feel this up and back moment. Up and back. One more each side. Come to the middle. Bring your elbows a little forward. Look up and scoop your elbows up. Imagine you're finding that back bend above your heart, the extension above your heart. And then open your elbows wide, pull your head up out of your neck, and then drop your sternum and your ribs, but keep your head pushing against your hand. Let's try that again. Elbows close. Going up with your eyes, up with your elbows. Press your head back a little bit, finding the neck curve and some strength there. Open your elbows. Pull your head up. You want to keep the space of the throat and drop the sternum if you feel your upper abs. Awesome. One more. Arching, 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 finding all that length and then pulling the length up and dropping the sternum. And then release a little bit. Just take a few steps, shake off anything you need. Notice that was more work than felt like at first. And then I'm going to show you something called tiger paw. So if we were to grab a ball, it's like there's got to be a ball somewhere. This kind of feeling like the center of your palm is a suction cup through the flow of your arm into your body, but also can push. This is a martial arts thing I learned it from my Qigong teacher. And it can be soft, it could be strong, but it's this idea that there is a flow up back into the center of the body. And we're going to reach up with our tiger paws, pushing and pulling to the sky. And I'll tell you about why. So I'm going to push, 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 push up like I'm really pushing something to the sky. And I also want to look and see where I'm going. Notice the different feeling of looking down while you're pushing up. That's so awesome. And then I'm going to switch. And the one that's coming down, I'm going to pull in, push out. Now, back and forth on your own timing, you can play with how your body is organizing underneath this. And I don't want you to use your fingers so like intensely that they are cramping. And see if each time that you especially reach up, you can just notice all the way around your shoulder, it feels pretty even. So I'm not feeling like a squeeze in one side and a stretch on one side. And one of the main things that can be helpful for our shoulder and our neck is that the design of our shoulder is actually made more for hanging from above than from pushing and bearing weight and carrying things. So things like massage, things like push-ups. I mean, clearly they can be done, helpful, good, but we are missing a lot of this brachiating, reaching overhead in life. And we are imagining the pull. Imagining the pull. I do recommend if you have things to hang on and pull on to find that in your life. Last few, you could even find like a little pose, a little moment that's like, oh, that's so nice. Keep feeling around your shoulder that you have an unkinked toes. And just noticing that we're looking up a lot. We're going to talk about that in a second. Last, maybe one each side. Let's give our hips just a little circle to ground that for a moment. Our whole shoulder girdle, the only bony attachment to the rest of the axial vertical body is right here. Let's switch the circle of your hips and tap right on your sternum at the top and your collarbones, the sternoclavicular joint. And that joint is kind of like motorcycle handles. I don't know why we use this metaphor because like I haven't really ridden a motorcycle, but I think we all know this like dialing forward and back. And let's try this with our hands just so we can feel what happens right there at that point. Is when we dial forward, they actually come in. And when we dial back, they go out. So there's this triaxial nonlinear movement that happens there, that when we look down and our sternum drops, the collarbones, and you can even feel them, they come forward like we're kind of closing our wings. And when we look up, the collarbones are doing this motorcycle thing and they're opening back. And the collarbone connects to the shoulder blade claw at the end, which is our shoulder joint. So our shoulder joint's on the shoulder blade, which is not really a joint, it's in muscle. And it's like a jacket that's hanging right here. So let's just notice what happens when we look down. I like to get the feedback from my hand. And when we look up, as we just kind of move around, uh, a couple steps, you can touch your sternum or your collarbones. You could let one arm hang free. And notice what kind of overall effects happen in your shoulder girdle just from this. Just tuning into it. There's so much. And think about all the times we're doing this. When I work with a lot of clients one-on-one, and this is like game changing, but also like we all have it these days. And there's also so many patterns of like looking up with like your chin or your eyeballs rather than your whole inner body. So just having a sense of that. We're going to add a few more movements standing for our arms. I wanted you to become aware of that. And we're going to face one direction, have a leg back a little bit. And we are going to pivot. We're not going to stay stuck there. The arm that's the same as your back leg, some of us have done this, but it's been a while, is going to move. So that arm is going to karate chop back until it feels like you can't karate chop anymore. It'll probably be somewhere similar to mine. And when you feel like you can't quite go in that same plane, imagine that someone's pulling your fingers and you're going to let that pull pivot your body. And then let's go ahead and paint a rainbow up to the sky, looking at it, noticing what happens in your sternoclavicular joint, and then we come back where we started. So we turn internal rotation, or this karate chop, and we feel where it's not going to keep quite going. So we're going to think of going long and letting that pull ourselves around. Then look at your rainbow. There's a couple of interesting things happening here. Is that when we circumduct or draw a circle with our arm, it dials into the joint. And what we're feeling in this moment is that dialing. And then the lift of the sternoclavicular and a little bit of a side bend. Let's try two more. To me, this is the juice. See if you can feel your arm turn and your arm pull your body. And then looking up. with awareness of your breath and jaw relaxed. Check it out. Okay. Other side. If you can hold one more thing in your mind, imagine you have a really beautiful ruffle collar that you can't squish. No squishing your ruffles. Other leg back. And it's just ready, right? It's just ready for the turn, nothing special. A little karate chop, internal rotation. When we reach the end of internal rotation, we pull our body and our arm spins into external rotation. And then we go up and up and up and lift from your sternum, your high heart, and come on back. And we can just flow again. So we're keeping the torso, the axial body more steady until it just can't anymore. Opening that river of inner flow, connection, force, communication through the shoulder. The exact timing and range is personal. So the felt sense of the distribution and the contribution is your practice. And if it starts to get like a little bit like a traffic jam, notice what's happening in your heart, in your eyes, in your neck ruffle collar. One more. Maybe a smile, maybe less muscles, and a frown, all that. Release. Well, let's pretend we're going for a walk in our upper body. So think about when we walk, are we looking down at the floor, the ground? Are we looking down at our phones and not letting our arms swing? Let's pretend we are just free to walk nice and tall and look up. And I'm letting gravity take my arms. I'm just giving them a tiny impulse. I feel like they're hanging off of you. And just play with that looking down and up one more time and notice what you feel as the support or the pull or something else. Also, the arms probably won't be totally straight. They'll probably be like crisscrossing or all kinds of things. So just let them find their own pathway. And now we're going to slow it down. And when our arms are open, give a little stretch and look up. Stretch and look up. You could go slower than this if you want to. Add a sense of pushing the air with your palms. So my palms are going to change when I get to each of those apexes. I push the air with my palms. See if that can be really sweet or really soft. The air is very forgiving at the moment. Stretch, stretch. And this is going to be easy for the spinner in the room. Let's take it up all the way. Keep going and down the other side. And continue up and change and down the other side with your eyes following your hands. So they're in my peripheral. I'm looking up. I'm going to see them at the top. And then they're in my peripheral. I'm looking down. One more. My hands are pushing the air. And we get to just walk and let it go again. If that didn't happen, don't worry about it. We're going to try it on the other direction. If it doesn't happen, don't worry about it. Other way, we go hug, lift the air, look up. Keep your hands going. They cross each other and they come down the other side. And I notice my knees bending and straightening. You don't have to, but it feels helpful to just get this whole body pattern. But I want us to really feel this lifting of the gaze. One more. Awesome. Shake it out. Let's give them a little break and just take a little bit of love for our legs. Shift side to side. Push and land. We can feel that connection from the inner thighs. Let's imagine all the way up through the crown of the head. So let our arms just take a break, but we're noticing the head as a continuation, almost like we're going even beyond our own skull, and lean forward a little bit. So I'm not letting my head just like fall off. It's heavy. So just facing the ground and sensing that continuation, we're strengthening the muscles behind the neck. For the neck, a lot of times, and feel free if you like stay in a place. A lot of times we're actually feeling tension in the neck because the ligaments can be unstable if we've done a lot of stretching in the neck. We're going to start to make our way down. Maybe you want to stay in your hips a little bit longer, or we'll come to hands and knees in a moment. But I am an example of this, of overstretching and flattening my cervical curve in things like shoulder stand, bridge pose, putting weight there, or a lot of slouching can also do that. So strengthening the back of the neck can be some of the best nutrition to start with for general care. So let's start on hands and knees. And for the shoulder girdle, recommendation would be to go a little wider than right underneath your shoulders and a little bit turned out. And let's just experiment. If we went really, really close and turned in and pour some weight into the hands, where do you feel that upstream? I feel that in the inner line and the inner shoulder towards my trap in my neck. Let's go extra super wide and lean to the outer edges as you just lean forward. And I feel that a kind of quieter message, but I feel it coming underneath and wrapping into my rib core connection. So if we went too wide, it's still not as supportive. So we just go a little wide with some leaning towards the outer edges of the hands. And let's bend the elbows a little bit. Hug them in. Keep your hands in the same place, but pull them isometrically towards your navel and see if you can feel underneath your armpit, your lats, serratus. And then your neck is free. Just check that the upper part of the shoulder is more free. We're going to try to get a little bit of that pattern, but play with it. So let's shift our weight, bend the elbows, push from that outer heel of the hand, and from there, move the shoulder blades while we keep our ruffle collar. So I'm not shortening the back of my neck. You can hear that in my voice, right? I'm not just letting it fall. Like we just did standing, I'm following through. So from that pushing in the floor, and there are a lot of things to track. You don't have to track them all. You might track the connection up through the side of the wing. You can feel what's moving in your shoulder blades, what's moving in your spine, and keeping your ruffle collar. Let your jaw go. Maybe your tongue, maybe some faces. And then reach your right arm forward and pull back and really pull on the floor. We're going to swim that arm back like our move we just did standing. Look up, push into the other hand, reach out and pull again. So the top arm has this dialing and we feel how it really feeds into opening the chest. Look at your hand. Notice what you might find in the sense of flow from the not only the arm, but through the spine and out your head. Change sides. A little bit of the pushing the air. And likely your arm is vertical because of your torso unfolding, because my torso is part of that lifting up. One more. Feeling from the lower spine to the upper spine to the eyes. And then switch sides again, and let's just think of the bottom arm. So as we bear weight, push down into it. As the weight pours in, push the floor away. Switch sides, 2 on the second side. Push the floor. And push the floor. Child's pose, make a pillow, open your knees. And just settle for a moment. Fill the breath. If you can, in the back of your ribs. And then let's find an easy seated position. So cross-legged is good. You could do a straddle, half straddle. You could sit up on something. Let's just become aware of what's happening in our sternoclavicular joint and our gaze. I find a lot of times we think of like good posture as like a stiffening and effortful pulling things back. But what if it was just like a streaming up to the sky from this spot? See if that makes it a little more globally easy. And then we'll enjoy a little side bend. So one hand's on the floor, one hand's on the sky. Let's find that push and pull. So the bottom arm, pull in a little bit. Feel your wing. On the top arm, really push and reach. You can explore the axis of your spine to get more in the back, more in the front. Just notice what your head and neck are doing. We'll be back here. And then when we come up, push away. It's just one choice. Switch sides. I pull in a little bit so my elbow can bend and I feel real strong underneath. Oh, just check that trapezius is on vacation. Fabulous. And then I push away. I could use my fingers to push. I could use my tiger paw, but it's really active, this reaching, yawning quality. I could play with the angle. Where is it most free in the juncture of the headwaters here? I could play with the rotation of my whole spine just to get more in the back of the body, the front of the body, but I'm not dropping my heart while I'm doing that. And then as I push away, we're keeping that sense of the pull, the hanging in the arm just for a moment. Let's come back again and bend the top elbow, pulling with the bottom, pushing with the top, and bring your hand to the very top of your head. Let's imagine that we're reaching out the top of the head instead of the arm for a moment. In a way that doesn't get straining or weird on your jaw, but you can feel where the center of your neck is. Right? If my chin was dropped and I was pushing, I could tell that it's not equal space. And then flood the breath space. Open from the inside with a big, big breath into your chest and armpits. Push away. And pull on the bottom, hand on top. Push away, but pull in at the bottom. And so then while you're holding that tone, breathe in from the inside. Nice and big. One more. This time, hand behind the head. So before we get the head, my elbow has its own reach, and then I catch my head. I can pull the bottom arm if I can still hold it. Now I'm going to press back with my head and breathe from the inside. Ooh, I feel a lot. So if you do, you're not alone. And come on up. Last one of these. Still have a little bit of something on the floor, noticing the time. So elbow reaches first, and then hand on the head and push back. And breathe, breathe full. So using the breath while we're in poses is almost like a massage from the inside. We can really expand our body's ability from within, move the tissue from within. And release. One more, put one hand or one finger right on the top of your head. Breathe in, and then on your exhale, just gently go straight up. Where there's still movement, there's still freedom. Take a moment to notice all the work we've done. And then lying down on our back, we're going to do a little bit of neck strengthening here. And it's not very complicated to look at. So I want you to prioritize your experience in my description rather than needing to see it. But let's place our feet on the floor. And just landing with the arms wide, notice the weight of your head and your upper body and your pelvis. And give in a couple of moments to feel like your upper back's a puddle. I can tell mine is more released to the floor than normal. So you might be able to reflect on what you know. And then notice in between those places, there's space. So we have the neck curve, we have the lumbar low back curve. And let's just imagine we have water in our ear and we're going to pour water out one ear. And then feel the back of the head heavy to come back. So we're turning our head, but it's really from this falling, like water is falling out to the side. And then like the back of the head is falling to come back. So one option is to keep it very soft and think of massaging the contact of your skull on the floor. If you have carpet, it's not going to be that much of a massage. And as you go in your own pace, back and forth, I want you to really maintain this falling so the front of the neck can stay relaxed. And notice that it's kind of a little rainbow. You tell that when you're on the side, your chin also drops. This is not something to actually do, but just to observe so that we don't undo it by keeping our chin really level. And then the next option is to ever so slightly press the floor as you are going side to side. Slow enough that your shoulders don't try to jump in and work for you, like mine just did. Jaw relaxed. And then another option is if you find one of the degrees on this rainbow particularly interesting, you could stay there and have just little tiny, tiny, almost imperceptible movement. So I'm finding my head on one side and the other side of my neck is the front is getting a nice stretch. So I'm just gonna ever so slightly, like you can't even see it, nod and say no, and let my jaw go. I'm just kind of untangling, finessing. breathing up into the stretch that I feel. And if you do stay, really relax as you empty to come out. Maybe you're just making the passes, or maybe you want to find another spot. What we're doing is we're getting the fascia around the head, which is really like the end points of the rivers. So many muscle chains, especially the ones that hold our back body upright. So we're kind of teasing them a little more open, but strengthening the muscles in the back of the neck to keep our head right on top. Feel free to keep playing with that or find yourself in the middle. Let's bring our arms along our side, prioritizing the neck curve. Take a breath. Exhale, press your feet, lift your pelvis, lift your arms. And let's take our arms right over our shoulders. We should still be able to have some movement capacity here. So what not to do is to roll so much that you flatten your neck on the floor. We want to keep it the curve so that we can also move our head. We're not very high up. Let's do a little push and pull here with our tiger paws. Push and pull, and your weight might change and your head might change. And push and pull. And now that pulling down, pull into the floor. So I'm going to pull, and it means pushing my elbow into the floor. I'm also pushing my head a little into the floor. But I'm actually working it so hard, but you can hear in my voice, like you could hardly tell. That is good organization. It's not impeding the flow of breath, of my trachea. Pause in the center. Let's interlace the fingers, bend your elbows and pull them apart, making a little bit of a tone and tension. And then as you lower, try to lower one vertebrae at a time, but take your arms towards your forehead or over the head. And let's come back up and just repeat that. So my hips are lifted a little. I feel the back of my legs, pulling the elbows apart. I take a breath in. I have all that space in my neck. And as I lower my pelvis, take my arms overhead, I'm going to look at my hands. So I'm increasing the neck curve. One more. Inhale, feel the legs pull apart. And keep that pulling apart as we drop the pelvis. Arms come overhead. Look at your hands. Then as the legs come down, take up a little extra space for your upper body. Check on your curve and your ruffle collar. Relax your eyes and your jaw. And notice where the breath, as if it's a tide, can reach into your chest, shoulders. Feel the weight of the puddle of your upper back. Weight of your head and your pelvis as well. Savor the space we've created, and if you're able, in your own home, you can take a longer rest. When you are ready to come back, do so slowly. And what would it be like to feel your head following your spine? Or even if it's leading, it's in the river of your spine, not doing its own thing. So for me, it's the image of the ruffle collar, not my head falling off. And when you do come back to your uprightness, may it feel more easeful, and take this lift of the high heart with you for the rest of the day. Thank you all. I feel better.